Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. That's better. Guys, I'm so thrilled to be here today. Hello, everyone online, by the way. We know you can't be here with us today, but glad you can join us via the internet machine. It's so great to see everybody's face here today. I started this year as the alumni board president at the asking of a fellow classmate of mine, our director of development, Ms. Hillary Allred. Shout out, yeah. And although it's been a few months, I can say it's already been a very exciting few months. There's a lot of things in the works, a lot of plans coming down the pipeline. And we were sitting at dinner, I guess it was about a month ago, and I was told that Mr. Eastman would be receiving this award. And I kind of inserted myself as the one to present it to him. And I'll tell you why. I could sit here and maybe be selected because I could tell you stories about when he was in high school. Can't do that, sorry. But I can tell you the stories of his generosity. Mr. Eastman has been a part of my family in a way for many years. Going back, I'd say about 20 years now to when my father started working at AutoClore for the Eastmans. And in his time there, my dad was very involved, like to I don't know, toss his hat around, do some random jobs here and there. And a lot of common thread would happen. And a lot of that common thread was Perry Eastman was kind of there along the journey. When my dad was diagnosed with cancer a few years into working for Mr. Eastman, a lot of companies could have said, oh, sorry, we're going to have to let you go, something along those lines. Not the Eastmans. Honestly, it was their generosity, Mr. Eastman's generosity, that kept him working well past his diagnosis. And the things they did for my family in accommodating my father's working at AutoClore, I may never be able to repay them. I'll tell a very quick story about when my dad was to the point where he wasn't driving to work anymore. And he would catch a ride from an employee here or there. Mr. Eastman would even come pick him up from time to time, and he would do his job. And they were prepping for a hurricane. And I was actually in California at the time, and I get a call from my mother. You don't know what your dad is doing right now, do you? I said, no, of course I don't. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon over here. I hope you guys are getting ready for the hurricane. Oh yeah, he's getting ready for the hurricane. He's supposed to not be walking. He's supposed to not be doing anything, but he's at Lowe's with Perry Eastman picking up generators for the office. And I said, well, I guess it's fine as long as he's with Perry Eastman. You can't go wrong. So, like I said, I may never be able to pay you and the family back for all the things that you have helped my family with over the year. I hope everyone here realizes that's a small touch of the service and generosity that this award represents. And listening to all those names of previous recipients, I can't think of anyone better this year to join those ranks other than Mr. Perry Eastman.
Get a whole lot of it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this is a little embarrassing, but I'm old. And I can remember throwing a block. I'm sorry. I can remember throwing a block for Bobby Merrick in 1961 in St. Bernard. but I'll be damned if I can remember what I had for breakfast. Let me thank you all for being here. This is really neat. I've had a wonderful time coming back to my roots. Years ago, Beth DePass, who was then the chairperson of the board, invited me to lunch at the Metairie Country Club. Now, I don't get invited to lunch with a lovely lady all the time at the Metairie Country Club. So I figured, well, she's going to ask for money. I was right. She wanted money for the Tony Porter Pop Shop, which was to be located adjacent to the Tony Porter track, which was around the Tony Porter football field. And I said, Beth, maybe we ought to consider something different, and suggested that Tony's wife, who we originally knew as Miss Dorothy, but married Tony, and I think was in charge from that point on. Anyway, our discussions with Beth, we finally agreed that what we would do is we would start a scholarship fund, and that eventually led to the golf tournament, which we cut to fund the scholarship fund. And I was just delighted. And we then created, I guess, the Dorothy Porter Award. And I was on the committee until this year, and I didn't get an announcement that we were having a meeting. So I said, well, maybe they forgot. And I had learned over my experiences over time that that's not unusual with committees. The late great, I was on the vestry of the St. Paul's Episcopal Church and learned that God so loved the world that he did not send a committee. So I figured, well, they just overlooked it. Well, they didn't. And I guess that's why I'm here. So let's go back to Dottie Porter. We originally knew her as Miss Dorothy. She was head of the history department forever. She, among her other duties, in fact, after her marriage to the chief, Tony, we figured that basically she and Aunt Jane Schmidt, who was John Jenkins' secretary, were actually running the school, not Ellsworth, O. Van Slate, and John Jenkins. The Eastman boys were not allowed to refer to John Jenkins as father. George, our dad, forbid it. Said, boys, you got two fathers. One's in heaven and the other's me. And he may be a great guy, but he ain't either one. John Jenkins didn't seem to mind at all. Things got a little shaky after that, though, when Little East took a Spanish class at Jesuit. And the rest of it you can figure out for yourself. There were very little notable achievements during my high school career. Academics, not exactly. Jim Latham of the math department, he said he couldn't pass with the book open. Harold Graff said I probably couldn't find the book. And John Akert said he wasn't exactly sure what language I was trying to write in. However, it was one with which he was not familiar. Athletics then were left. Well, that didn't work out too well. I had a brother that was all world. He was all state this, all state that. He ran the ball. He was wonderful. So Tony Porter says one day, I want you to play tackle. I didn't sound too good. I mean, I was 173 pounds, wringing wet. And he says, yeah, but you can do it. Well, one dislocated shoulder, 2 concussions, we called them bell rung then, compressed vertebra, 3 broken fingers. Later, we finished the season with only 1 lost game, and that by 1 point. Basketball. Joe Moody coaches in basketball. We had one basic play: get the ball to Eastman. But if that came close to me, he'd yell, "Not that one," meaning get the ball to little brother who could shoot. Joe Moody later became a legend in Alabama, coaching at Montgomery Academy. And we had, he had many of the athletic facilities over there named after him, almost as many as Tony Porter had here. He, of course, was already a legend. Track, well, that didn't work out too easy. Tony said, he runs hard, but he stays in one place too long. So we're back to, they're going to give me an award. For what? Well, I'll tell you for what. My youngest son graduated from Trinity's 8th grade, and he came to St. Martin's. He loved St. Martin's. He just thrived here. He did beautifully. He played ball. It was just the place for him. Imagine that. Another generation. Well, Katrina hit his senior year. Everybody has got a Katrina story, and I'm not going to bother you with ours. So we wound up in Swanee, Tennessee. And St. Andrew's School accepted him. And he played ball for them and decided that when St. Martin's opened again, he would stay there to graduate. He was later accepted to the University of the South. But what is the best part of the story is they graduated a week before St. Martin's graduated. St. Martin's people invited him to their graduation, and he graduated again from St. Martin. That's who St. Martin's is. Scholarship, faith, and service. It's exactly who we are. I got re-involved with St. Martin's as a result of the Episcopal Church, actually. Fred Duvall called me one day and said, you know, we need an Episcopalian on the board. And I said, Fred, I don't need to be on the board of anything else. And he said, you really need to consider this. And then the bishop called me, and the bishop said, you really need to consider this. So I said, okay. So I'll go out and I will meet the head, and we'll talk about what she expects us to do. Well, I had one of the great experiences of my life. I met Mary Solve, and I not only volunteered to serve on our board, but I dedicated myself to do whatever she thought was the next best thing to do. And I'm very proud of the fact that during that time, we balanced the books. We got the school into a position where it was programs for the future instead of fighting to live in the present. And we had some help. Robin Lunsford came in, a CPA with a ton of experience, and she and Mary Sauls put a budget together, a plan together, that over 3 years, we had this place balanced, the books were balanced. We didn't owe anybody anything, and we were ready for the future. It's one of the great experiences I've had. So that was 8 years ago. Served 2 terms on the board, now serving a 2nd year as an advisor, where I'll remain if asked until the new head is named. I will then respectfully ask to be relieved. It's been a privilege, if not a pleasure, at some very trying times. There have been to be a part of the St. Martin family over again over these last 8 years or so. I would like to thank the board members with whom I have worked over those years. Special thanks to Chad Stephen Huber, Anna Ortega, our current chair, Patrick Comer of Lucid fame and Walker Psych, as well as my close friends, Bruce Parkerson and Kelly Duncan, whose experience and professionalism have been and will continue to be of invaluable service to the St. Martin's family. I can't forget 4D, Mr. St. Martin's, our current interim head and alum, a lifelong saint who exemplifies the best traits of our commitment to faith, scholarship, and service. May the good Lord, in his infinite wisdom, continue to bless the entire St. Martin's community, past and present. And may we continue to give him our thanks and praise for being so blessed. Thank you for coming tonight, and please enjoy the rest of your evening.